Just a few words to say. Just first of all, it's a real privilege to be here today on what is a historic day to see the Executive and Assembly operating again. Meeting with the Prime Minister, then met with the also the SDLP as the opposition, and really just had three things to say. One, to thank people who made today possible, to congratulate the First Minister, Deputy First Minister, the new Executive on taking up their new roles, and really pledge to do everything that we can do to help this Executive to be successful. A lot of everyday issues that need attention here in Northern Ireland, and I know we're going to work very hard on that. We're keen to get North and South cooperation going again, have a meeting of the NSMC in the next couple of weeks, and focus on some of that practical cooperation that works well for everyone on the island. So very keen to work with the new Executive and looking forward to doing that.
Taoiseach, what does it say about relations between the UK government and the Irish government that on a day like today, with the restoration of the Executive, we have no formal picture of the co-guarantors of the Good Friday Agreement standing together, shoulder to shoulder, selling this moment?
Well, look, we had a very good meeting this morning. I spoke to the Prime Minister by phone only a week or so ago, and had a very good meeting today with him and his team. And we're keen to think about the future and work on North-South cooperation, but also East-West cooperation as well, which is very important.
Taoiseach, do you agree with the Prime Minister that now is the time to address voters' day-to-day concerns and not the question of Irish unity?
I think the priority for any new Executive and any government in any country has to be the day-to-day concerns of people. So, as you know, there are very long waiting lists in Northern Ireland. Not a problem unique to Northern Ireland by any means. We've similar problems too, and there's issues around the economy and around public sector pay. And certainly the sense that I got from the First Minister, Deputy First Minister and the Executive is they're very keen to get stuck into their briefs and very keen to work on those day-to-day issues, and we're here to help.
Friday Agreement would be interested in the durability of all the institutions, including the North-South bodies that we discussed. How confident are you that this time around it will last? And would you support further reform of the institutions if you thought that would help in terms of durability?
Yeah, well, look, I am confident that the institutions will last. When I was first elected to govern back in 2011, we had a prolonged period where the Executive and Assembly were operating, the North-South bodies were operating well, and I know that when the Assembly falls, it tends not to be re-established for years. I think we always need to bear that in mind. But I do feel a sense of confidence from the new Executive that this is here to last. Obviously, we're keen to help in any way we can, particularly around North-South issues and East-West issues. In terms of reform, I think that should wait a bit. You know, it's important that we allow the parties to do their work, to get to know their briefs, their ministries, to work together. And reforms have been made before. It can be done, but I think a period of bedding down and focusing on the day-to-day issues really should come first.
In terms of financial help, you said the Irish government is willing to help. You've already committed significant money in regard to the Shared Island Fund and some of the capital projects. Is the government prepared to commit new or fresh money to help the Executive?
Yes, we are. The Shared Island Fund is there, and we would intend to make further allocations from that over the course of this year, but also very keen to coordinate that with Secretary of State and also with the Executive now that's up and running. Sorry?
Was the issue of legacy raised today?
Wasn't not in my meeting, not in my meeting with the Prime Minister, but the Deputy First Minister raised it. Yes. Sorry, say that again. I think that's not for today.
The Prime Minister today has said this is not about constitutional change. But despite what he says, hasn't the focus shifted to a border poll because of Brexit and the fallout of it for the island of Ireland? And might that referendum come within the decade?
I think today really is about marking the fact that the Good Friday Agreement, which we voted for in big numbers, North and South, is now functioning again. The Assembly is operating. the Executive and hopefully the North-South bodies and Ministerial Council soon. So I think today really should be about that rather than constitutional questions.
Any irritation from the UK government over what's seen as muscling in on their moment? And if not, why are you not doing a joint press conference with the Prime Minister?
No, look, I had a very, very good welcome, a very good meeting with the Prime Minister, and then a very warm welcome from the First Minister, Deputy First Minister and the Executive. And there's a long-standing tradition since the Good Friday Agreement was signed that the Taoiseach would attend events like this. Well, tá dóchasach agus tá alán áhas arm go bhfuil an tunnel agus an Executive ag obair arís agus tá méid tanú obair leis an céad ára nua agus an las céad ára nua freisin.
Policy Exchange, the think tank for which Rishi Sunak worked, which is very influential in both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, today issued a devastating report endorsed by a former Labour Defence Secretary, a former Conservative Defence Secretary, a former Secretary General of NATO, accusing Ireland of persistent security freeloading, saying that Britain should reclaim strategic interests in Northern Ireland. And I just wonder what you thought about that.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to read it. I will, but I have read the summary, and I don't agree with it, as you won't be surprised to hear. And as a country and as a government, we take security and defence very seriously. We're dramatically scaling up our defence budget in the Republic of Ireland, and also we're getting more involved in international security. We've always been actively involved in the UN, but we are founder members of PESCO, which is the Common European Security and Defence Policy. We're part of that. We're also updating our relationship with NATO through the Partnership for Peace, so we take security matters very seriously.
Taoiseach, this has all been made possible today by the deal negotiated with the government. You've already said that you have some problems with that deal. Spell them out first. What's uncomfortable for you in this document?
Well, look, I've some reservations about what's in the command paper, and particularly some of the more negative language around the all-island economy. I see the future of the economy here as being very bright. And I think Northern Ireland has an opportunity to leverage its access to the EU single market, being within the UK internal market as well, and also building up the North-South economy. So I don't think it's a choice. I think Northern Ireland has a great opportunity now to benefit from trade and economic growth and investment coming from all parts of the world, and keen to work with the new ministers on that. But for me, crucially, nothing in what's been negotiated breaks any red lines. I remember when Brexit happened, we set out a number of objectives. One was to make sure there's no hard border between North and South. The other was to make sure that the Republic of Ireland's position in the European single market wasn't undermined in any way. And the third was to make sure that the Good Friday Agreement institutions would function. And all of those things are the case today, and that makes it a very positive day in my view.
Taoiseach, are you today because the UK Prime Minister is basking in the glory of breakthrough ahead of the general election, and you need to do the same thing ahead of the general election? Or are you here because that command paper, and since then the UK government has been waving the red, white and blue flag?
Well, look, first of all, this isn't about us. This is about Northern Ireland. It's about the major political parties here coming together, forming an executive, working together on the day-to-day issues that people across the province are concerned about. So it isn't really about me or the Prime Minister. It's about power sharing here in Northern Ireland, which is so important. So I think the focus should be on them rather than on us, quite frankly. Yeah, but not for today.
Taoiseach, Amanda Ferguson from Reuters. I just have two questions for you, if you don't mind. Is the Irish government considering setting up further north and south bodies to counterbalance what the UK government has agreed with the DUP? And also, whenever you were talking about reform, you said wait a bit. Can you give a realistic timescale of when the UK government and the Irish government may meet with the parties to discuss reform of the Stormont institutions? Do you expect it to happen in the next month, this quarter, at some point this year?
Well, we don't have any plans to set up any new North-South bodies. They're in the agreement, in the Good Friday Agreement. The important thing is that we make sure that they function well, and they do function well, but they've been absent ministerial guidance and ministerial decisions now for far too long. So it's going to be one step at a time. I think it's really important that we should have a North-South Ministerial Council meeting in the next couple of weeks. That will be hosted here in Northern Ireland, and that the North-South sectoral meetings start happening as well. So that's where ministers here in Stormont meet with their counterparts from the Republic. So I think we just try and get things moving.
And on the reform side of things?
Again, I don't really think today is the day for that. These are things that governments can talk about, and of course the parties need to talk about as well. But really, I think the focus for now, and certainly for the next few months, is on getting the executive up and running, bedding in, ministers getting busy in their departments, having the North-South Ministerial Council work again, and then also the British-Irish Council, because the East-West aspect of this is important too.
The legacy legislation that you were taking the UK government to come up in your conversations with the Prime Minister?
Not today.
Given your stance and your comments at the start of this whole process as Brexit began, what would you now do to reassure unionists that you are taking on their fears?
I do my best to reach out to all communities here in Northern Ireland, and will continue to do so. And I think the main thing that I'd like to do now that the Executive and Assembly are operating again is just to get down to some of that practical cooperation. I've seen unionist ministers achieve a lot when it comes to things like healthcare, for example. The fact that we have cardiac care in Altnagelvin for people in Donegal, the fact that children who need heart surgery can get it in Dublin. It was unionist ministers that helped to make that happen. So I'd like to see us concentrate on practical cooperation over the next couple of months.
Taoiseach, what is the update on the Irish government's legal action against British government under the Disputed Legacy Act? And secondly, what's the government's approach to the overall Dublin inquiry?
On the first matter, that there's no update, and legal processes can take some time, as you know. In relation to OMA, we're very keen to participate and assist in the UK inquiry, and we're willing to do that in any way possible. It was a terrible atrocity, an awful crime. Important that we get to all the facts. We owe that to the survivors and the victims, and we're happy to cooperate and be part of that inquiry, and we're willing to pass any legislation that's necessary to do that. It's an issue of difference. There's no denying that. I think the UK government understands our position. We understand their position. But it shouldn't prevent us from working on other areas, and we will do that. We have a very close economic relationship with Great Britain for obvious reasons, our nearest and one of our biggest markets. And we also need to cooperate more, particularly in areas around security and areas around migration, for example, given that we have a common travel area. So, I think we'll focus on the things that we can work on, and from time to time there will be things that we disagree on. But the fact that we have the Windsor framework in place, that trading relationships around Brexit are settled, and the fact that we have the institutions here up and running again really is a big positive, I think, for UK-Irish relations.
Okay, final question?
No? Taoiseach, the phone call between yourself and the Prime Minister last week was reported to be quite catchy. I know it's very dying by both sides. Could you describe that? I think you had a positive meeting this morning. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, look, we spoke on the phone for about 20 minutes. It was mostly about Northern Ireland, also touched on other issues like Ukraine, for example, and it was the run-up to the EU meeting where we agreed the funding for Ukraine, for example. So the only issue on which there was disagreement or any difficulty was on the issue of legacy. Probably took up less than a quarter of that phone call, but it was an issue that I raised, and I thought it was important that we should discuss it. But it is very clearly a point of significant difference between the two governments, but that doesn't mean that we can't work together on so many other things that are very important too.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Well, the Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar there welcoming what has happened in Stormont today, but as often as the case in these situations, what he didn't say, perhaps more interesting, refusing to be drawn, although repeatedly asked about the wider constitutional issue of the relationship between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Well, he is there, and so is the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He has been talking in the last few minutes. Let's hear what he's had to say.
Prime Minister, Stormont up and running again. In your words, it's been painstaking work to get the Northern Ireland Assembly back on track. It's a big achievement. But do you also acknowledge what Michelle O'Neill said yesterday, that there will be a border poll on the reunification of Ireland within the decade?
Well, I had very constructive meetings this morning with the executive, political leaders across Stormont, and it's a historic and important day for the country because Northern Ireland's politicians are back in charge, making decisions on behalf of their people, which is exactly how it should be. Now, our new deal gives them more funding and more powers than they've ever had so that they can deliver for families and businesses across Northern Ireland. And that's what everyone's priority is now. It's not constitutional change, it's delivering on the day-to-day things that matter to people. That's why I'm here visiting this school at Craig Integrated Primary School, because the children here are the future, and because of the progress that we've made in the last few days, that future is undeniably brighter.
And just quick follow-up on that, Michelle O'Neill presumably also said to you quite clearly this morning that they need more funding, that the £3.3 billion package, while welcome, isn't enough. What was your response to her?
I had very constructive meetings today with all political leaders in Stormont and the new executive, and the funding package that we put on the table before Christmas I think has been widely recognised as being significant and generous, £3.3 billion, a focus on long-term sustainability, ensuring that Northern Ireland has the funding it needs, not just for today to deal with the immediate challenges, but is on a path towards being able to provide high-quality public services into the future, because that's what we want, brighter future for the children that I've been spending time with at this school here this morning. And I'm really pleased because the progress we've made, the executive back up and running, everyone has been waiting for this moment, and it's a significant progress for everyone's
that sounds like
part.
no more money at the moment.